everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm going to talk about the 5 fundamentals of music that every musician or aspiring musician should know. Let's get into it. Alright, so starting with number 5, we're going to talk about melody. Melody is the linear succession of musical tones, uses pitch and rhythm to create a tune, a voice, or a line. Now, when I say linear, that means one note at a time, and that is a characteristic of melody, not harmony. Harmony is where you have more than one pitch happening simultaneously. And melody is typically the part that you are most aware of. It is the part of a song that you can sing or hum. It's when you walk away from a piece, that's the part that primarily will stick in your head. Now, melody is one of the most important elements because it is the memorable part. Even if there's no words attached to the melody will find a prominent place in the listener's ear. Often a good melody is a hallmark of a great song, but not all great songs revolve around their melody. So some notable melodies that stand out would be Unchained Melody, anything pretty much by Celine Dion or Adele, and then of course Queen, which is probably my favorite. Also, intonation is a really important part of melody. Intonation is the accuracy of the pitch being sung. I plan on going into a lot more detail down the road when it comes to intonation and hearing and being able to produce the pitch that you hear, whether it be on your instrument or of course if you're singing. Harmony. So as I mentioned before, harmony is where there is more than one pitch at any given time. So that could be just 2 pitches together, it could be 3 or more. Typically, if you're dealing with a chord, which is at least 3 pitches played simultaneously, then that's the beginnings of what we call vertical harmony. Now, harmony also is a function of moving from one chord to another chord as you go through. We call that a chord progression. Using creative ideas in chord progressions is what gives a song interest. Typically, your basic pop song, rock song is going to have a structure where you have a 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord goes back to 1. Those are pretty basic, and those numbers, don't stress on that right now. If you don't understand what that is, we're going to get into that later when we actually dive in deeper to music theory and understanding harmony. Some chords are very pleasing to the ear. They're very smooth. We call those consonant chords. That's going to be your basic triad, whether it be a major chord or a minor chord. Again, don't stress. We'll talk about that more later. And then also you would have harmonies that are very what we call dissonant, and that's where you have tones that are really kind of grating or irritating. And this is important when writing music as well because we want to have that tension and that release. That's what gives music this interest, and your ears will definitely pick up on that if it is not there in the music that you're listening. Good harmonic writing and understanding harmony can drastically improve the music that you're creating. And having a good understanding of harmony can also assist you with writing better melody. Now, there are some exercises, we call it ear training, that you can do that will help you to be able to hear those harmonies a little bit better, to be able to identify the sounds that you're hearing, the types of chords, and there's a lot of online resources for things like that. And again, we'll go into that more later. The third fundamental is rhythm. Now, rhythm is the sound and the silence that occurs in music in a duration of time, and it can be measured. Now, there are different elements that make up rhythm, things such as beat, tempo, rests, and the duration of notes. So the beat is the underlying pulse of a song. The beat is steady, and generally I describe it as you feel the beat in your feet when you're tapping to that pulse. It's like the heartbeat of the song. Now, tempo, that's the speed. That's whether it's faster or slower. Sometimes your heart beats faster if you've been running or doing exercise, or it beats a little slower when you're sleeping. The same thing happens in music. And you can change tempo in a song Typically, a lot of the things you hear on the radio will be set to a click and it will have a steady tempo, meaning that that beat will continue at about the same pace through the whole song. If you're dealing with, say, classical music, then there's definitely some fluctuation there. Rests are the space between notes, and duration is the length of notes. Now, rests are very important. That's the silence that occurs. It gives things space, is essential when creating rhythm. Now, some songs don't focus as much on melody or harmony. They rather focus on rhythm. So some genres that would be the case is going to be rap, a lot of dance music, and even some metal. The focus tends to be more on the rhythm. Now, a specific rhythm or a feel can be characteristic of specific genres of music. Things like funk, ragtime, various rhythms from Latin American countries, African countries, Middle Eastern, and then even like old European dances such as the gavotte and the waltz. Now, you can make songs focusing on one, two, or all three of these elements. It's beneficial to understand how those elements work, how they work together, and how to utilize them in creating your songs. If you're not really focusing or using any of these elements, then you're probably going to have issues where your songs aren't as memorable and it's not going to hold your audience interest. Okay, now number 2 is form. And what form is the structure of the song. It's how the pieces of the song are put together from beginning to end. A good example, typically if you've got a modern pop song or a rock song, you're going to have the verse, then you're gonna have a chorus. Then that's repeated. It could be repeated more than one time. You've got the verse chorus, you got a verse chorus, and then you're gonna have a transition. We call that the bridge. The bridge kind of gives you something new going on. It can sometimes maybe change feel, tempo, or maybe go to a halftime feel. Maybe it changed key centers harmonically. Maybe, you know, we moved from major to minor. We've got maybe a different chord progression happening. And then that transitions you right back into that chorus, something familiar, before the song ends. This is a very, very typical basic structure for songs that you probably would recognize. And then using other elements and sections, you're able to kind of create and make your own structures as you go through in song creation. Another reason to understand form as a performer is that it helps you in memorizing songs. If you know the structure and you know where those sections are being placed, it makes it easier to follow along and memorize the song that you're performing. The number one element that you should know, and this is going to be controversial, I know, is reading music notation. So is it possible to be a musician and not be able to read music? Yeah, it is. Is it going to make you a better musician if you learn to read some kind of notation? Yes, it is. Now I realize that there are a lot of really amazing musicians out there who did not read music. Prince is a good example, the members of the Beatles, but I would wager that they probably understood music and were able to read maybe different formats of music, maybe not necessarily, you know, the notes on the staff. Maybe they understood charts or lead sheets. Maybe they were able to read tablature. And I can guarantee you that they understood chord structures and they could communicate speaking in what key they were in, scales, progressions, things like that. Those things they probably understood. So they did understand music theory in some way, and then it was just a matter of the notes on the page, whether they needed that or not. Now, here's the thing. If you were a chef or you were a mechanic, and let's say you're a mechanic, are you only going to have one set of wrenches, one set of screwdrivers to do your work? If you're a chef, are you going to have one or two pots and one or two knives, and that's it? Sure, you could get some things accomplished with those items, you could do some work, but you're going to want more in your toolbox to work with to be better at what it is that you're doing. It's going to just make things easier for you, make things more creative. And that is why I encourage everybody to take the time to learn to read music notation. Years ago, you would have had to find someone to mentor you. Maybe you didn't have the resources available. Maybe it wasn't available through school. But now that is not the case. These things are available at the tip of your fingers, and it's very easy to gather this information and learn it. And as a musician, if you want to be better at your trade, then I definitely recommend that you take the time to learn to read rhythms at the very least, understand, tablature if you're a guitar player, string player, and so forth. So honestly, your DAW interface is also a form of reading music in some fashion. The notes go up, they go down, they have duration. One thing that people worry about is that by learning to read music, it's going to stifle their creativity. And I would argue that that is not the case, that it will open up your creativity. You may go through a period of time where that knowledge kind of gives you a little bit of a hiccup, but once you're over that hump, you're good to go, and then it just opens up a whole new world for you. We should always be upping the bar and learning more as we progress through our lives. I hope you take something away from this video. Maybe you learned a little bit, or it's giving you some motivation to learn some things. Well, that's what this YouTube channel is for, so I hope you come back as we talk in more detail on these subjects. Please click the thumbs up if you like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the notification bell so you know when videos are going to be coming out. And don't be afraid to leave me your thoughts and comments down below. I'd love to hear from all of you. And again, thanks for stopping by. Until next time, I'll see you guys all later. That's not how I work. Yeah, it's a smart word.
Oh my god, she said analogous. We can't. He's too unrelatable.